Hey everyone, it's Evan Kirstel. I have a fabulous guest and company today to chat with, and thanks so much for viewing Jimmy Chang, Chief Product Officer at Workspot. And Jimmy, your title on LinkedIn is helping customers realize their cloud strategy faster. I'm going to steal that. I really like it. Maybe introduce yourselves to the viewers. Who are you, and what do you do exactly?
Hey, Evan. Nice to see you. Nice to see everybody. So I'm Chief Product Officer here at Workspot, and what that may mean to some people, different things. But I run engineering and products, and as well as support and operations. And it's a little unique here at Workspot because of what we discovered in our journey on helping customers be very successful. Is we have to be able to operate everything and keep the feedback releases responses and keep it going in a what we think of what we call a flywheel. So that's why when I say we're here to help people realize their cloud strategy faster, we actually bring the army together and basically say, hey, okay, exactly what stage are you at and how do we get you moving faster to your ideal situation.
I love it. The flywheel or the
Yeah,
virtuous circle is another way to
yeah.
describe it. But let's dive into our topic because it's
Mhm.
timely, super relevant. We've all heard the buzzwords, the great resignation, the great realignment, whatever you want to call this environment of
Yeah.
hybrid work that we find ourselves in. We're in the midst of course, a labor shortage, particularly tight in tech or knowledge workers. And it's this new world, this new normal is posing a critical risk to many aspects of our work life, but particular cybersecurity. So, what say you? How do you view this current environment we find ourselves in?
Yeah, wow. I mean, it is a tough world out there right now. And so when I speak to a lot of the customers and people who are looking to come to Workspot first time, there's a huge gamut of it of experiences. But I think the key one is this is because there's so much churn in the system, right? People are you call it the great resignation, great realignment. Some people call it the great upgrade, right? People are coming in and out of the system all the time. A couple of things are different now than it would have been, say, 3 years ago. 3 years ago, I think with everybody being on, most people were like in the office, right? You knew you were the exception when you did remote work, or you got a VPN, you got an RSA key, maybe that's how old school some people are. But now with everybody being, external, mostly remote work, that's caused a lot of stress on the system, which was do we have a great accounting of what's happening? So when people are coming on, are being onboarded, are they getting the right assets? But when they're leaving, do we remember what we gave them to shut them off? And that wasn't a problem when you hand in your laptop or basically to turn off your access within the office. But for remote work, we've seen a lot of kind of scary stories where people would leave and then they would still have access for a period of time to a bunch of SaaS-based properties, etc. And that's currently the big problem, big conversation we're having with customers is there a better way, right? And there's a whole lot of different technologies people are putting in there, which is, you know, um, when it comes to, like some kind of single sign on, or they using other technologies that force everyone through a portal, etc. In our world at Workspot, what we basically look at is this is if with the pre-pandemic world, if you're issued a laptop and you work from the office, your IT security boundaries was very defined. Like if I had three offices, 90% of my workforce within those three offices, maybe 2% were remote work. Now it's the flip around. And for a lot of customers who do talk to us about this, they're starting to identify as like, well, if I had 1,000 users, 1,000 employees, now I have 1,000 offices because they're all home,
Wow,
right? Yeah.
great
So
point.
all of a sudden, it's like, is it make sense to keep all that data on your laptops? And that's the conversation we have is like, how do you give the productivity, but kind of can we contain it? Can we bring it back in so we don't have this big sprawl in security? And that's a big thing for customers right now. So when you have the big resignation thrown on top of that, right, the great resignation, people coming in and going, people are starting to lose track of what's happening. And throw on top of that yet another problem, which is being able to get hardware. We're hearing people telling end users to go out and buy their own hardware, use their own hardware. So now you have BYOD on top of that, and it's like, okay, now where's your data? And I think this is the these weren't huge concerns before the pandemic, but because of these, you know, layer, or maybe it's a layer cake of problems that are in this current world, it's created a bit of a scramble in many security departments.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing as well. In addition to, we've all been given new applications, not just
Hmm.
devices,
Yeah.
collaboration tools,
Hmm.
over the top services, mobile apps, workforce planning, and we
Absolutely.
we live within these new tools. And so, like another layer on the cake, to use your analogy, and now we can't live without them. So
Yeah.
what are you hearing from some of your customers, more on the CSO, CISO side, security
Mhm.
departments, IT leaders? What are the options they're putting in place to protect themselves, the company, the employees?
So I think there's a couple of things. Let me. There's kind of a gamut, right?
Mhm.
I'll start with the ideal case, which were the super organized IT organization, which they've been looking at. It's like, okay, how do we take the human out of the process? And this is a key thing about looking at the strategy moving forward for hybrid work is, the great resignation also affects IT. A lot of people don't recall. It's like, oh, what do you mean? IT's always there, right? But getting really great IT staff, building great IT team is actually that's a problem for a lot of companies these days. Is can they even get the technical staff to really realize a new strategy? And that's what people need is this new strategy. How do I train people to use the moving forward, to use the right process and then use the right product? Most of our conversations that I hear people have is like, okay, what product do I need to buy? But without the other two legs of the stool, the product itself doesn't operate itself,
Mm.
right? You actually need processes in place, and your biggest problem in security is always people, right? That's where security always fails first. So what we've seen from some of the more security focused companies are, okay, if people is my biggest problem, how do I get them off? Right? How do we take them out of the equation as much as we can, and then make sure that we have processes in place that use the product in the right way? Our larger, more highly regulated customers are moving towards how do I make it so when we have a system like Jimmy joins today is my first day, for example. How do I automate all that assignment during the onboarding process? Everything from all my SaaS-based applications down to my cloud PC, for example, right? How do I get that automated so it actually starts with HR, not IT? HR puts a ticket in and it goes all the way through the system, and I get a nice little credential says log in here. I'm inside of some kind of secured container of access. Okay, that's what. And then when I leave, the same thing. HR fits ticket, and then the reverse happens. Right. That's what we're starting to see people trying to get to. Is that no touch, no human involved. That way, the process has no gaps. Okay, that's seems like to be the ideal case. On the other side, what I see are people trying to figure out, it's like, okay, if we don't do automation, how do we make sure that we have the right product, the right process, and then the right people trained, and then auditing and making sure the things are working as is. And that's more of think of it the human driven non-automation, right? Try to get to the same thing. So those are two polar opposites I'm seeing from customers as well as people who are coming to talk to Workspot for the first time.
Fantastic. And the cloud PC is really coming into its own. It's at least
Mm.
a concept I think has been around for a while, but it's actually a strategy that's really pandemic optimal. So, what is it about the cloud PC architecture that's so ideal for CSOs?
So my former life, I come from it turns out a very long career in the world of VDI, right? And one of the things about legacy VDIs is something you built and then you would basically manage, and it was always considered, you would build a custom build infrastructure. You installed software, you build
Mhm.
up a server farm, you manage it, and then to deal with costs, you did some interesting things to contain cost, right? Uh, you know, Layering, and I'll use technologies you may or may not heard of because they're not mainstream in IT, which is like layering and app layering and disk attach and all these very
Making my head hurt just listening to that
no,
list.
I'm sorry. I apologize. We apologize. But basically, that my point is this: is I've just said a bunch of stuff that most people in IT don't even know, right?
Right.
So the cloud PC concept that we're working from is this: is okay. Very few people in the world know how to run VDI. That's true. I learned that the hard way. But every IT organization in the world knows how to manage a Windows PC. And that's the concept I would like the audience to really understand is we're starting from that. We're going for the 100%. You know how to run a Windows PC. You know how to manage it. You know how to secure it. You know how to do everything there is to be. Why? Because we've been trained for, I don't know, what, 35 years? Ooh, am I aging myself?
Yeah, thank you, Bill
Dating
Gates.
myself a little bit,
Thank
right?
you for teaching us all that. Yes.
Yes. But basically, because of that, that's where we start. That's the basis we're starting with. So it makes a simpler concept for enterprises to adopt the concept. Forget adopting, so understand the concept. Say, you know what? Okay, so what I've done is taken the physical thing in front of you that is in your house, and what I've done is I moved it back into under IT control. So I know how to patch it, I know how to manage it, I know how to secure it, and how to get you on and off of it. Those are very, really important things. And CISOs like that. That's one. Second part of that is not just the understanding, but going back to my lovely three things, which is security fails in this order: people, process, and then products. Okay. Um, the process issue is what I'm going to point out here with cloud PCs. It's very different than VDI. Is when you do something very specific and not everybody understands it, are you creating a gap? There's a little bit of sunlight between two people or two processes or people and processes, right? And that's where security problems happen. Like, did we remember to patch this system and this system because they're two different processes? So with cloud PCs, the construct is if you patch your existing physical PCs, you do the same to the cloud PCs. So we're closing the gap. We're trying to minimize the sunlight between any people and processes. And that's where a lot of CISOs are coming to us as, hey, I don't have VDI understands. I can't hire them in this great resignation, right? Where do we find these people, right? And it's not really an area a lot of folks are saying like, "Ooh, I want to build my career on it anymore." So, but I want to build my career on cloud. I want to build my career on multi-cloud maybe, and cloud PC just kind of wraps that together. Goes from something they understand to something they want to learn, and that's where I think a lot of CISOs are saying, I find a lot of great benefits for the company if I can bring this into my organization.
And yet you can still give them the visibility and the granularity and the control they need as well, it seems.
Absolutely. They're existing tools, but also what we give them as Workspot, right? It's one of the things we do give them additional visibilities that our highly regulated customers require of us, which is every access, every IP. Is Jimmy logging in from California or is Jimmy logging in from Bermuda, right? It's like, hey, where is Jimmy in the world? And it comes down to that level of granularity that highly regulated customers really need to know. They really need to know what's coming around, especially these days. Given the current environment on the public internet, right? Cybersecurity is front page news now. Nobody wants to be in front page news, so having every piece of information about what's happening inside your company and who's accessing it is top of mind for most CISOs I speak with.
Oh, that's exciting. Let's talk a little bit about Workspot. And when it comes to digital transformation, we've seen a decade of advances in 2+ years. It's been
Mhm.
quite a ride for everyone in our enterprise IT world. So, what role do you play in the larger transformation picture?
That's a great question. I think in the larger world, right? I think innovation happens when there's a problem to solve,
Mhm.
right? And we were all dumped in the deep end. If you agree, like 2.5 years ago, right? Like, you know what? You all have to get this done now. You have no choice. In our world, it comes down to this, which is we've always believed that the future has to be to the cloud, right? Running your own data center has its challenges with from a agility perspective, but running laptops, right, physical PCs is something that security continues to have problems with, right, in a remote world. So what we've done here, going back to my own introduction, is how do we help them realize a cloud-based strategy faster? When we started this business 5.5 years ago, the question I always had for CIOs and CISOs was like, hey, what's your cloud strategy? And they always came back and says, well, we have a cloud strategy. And it's either I want to adopt cloud, but I don't know how, or I cannot be on the cloud. I mean, we had a small segment 5.5 years ago where people couldn't be on the cloud for whatever reason, governance, compliance,
Mm.
regulations, etc. Um, but now whatever comes to me, it says like, look, okay, we've gotten on the cloud, but you know, how do we de-risk our single cloud strategy,
Mhm.
right? So if they're on the cloud today and they said, hey, I'm on, cloud one, but my business says, you know what, that's a risk. What if cloud one goes down, right? How do I get on cloud two, cloud three? And that's where really where Workspot shines is it says, look, we're gonna put your most important productive workload, your users accessing a desktop and spread them into different clouds, right? And it could be by business unit, right? It could be by workload, right? So, for example, I might use a certain cloud because they have really great machine learning algorithms, so I can do all
Mm.
my retail analytics on it. Put your users on that. That makes a lot of sense. Or I have to, um, I need to basically run specific workloads on government contracts, right? And I had to be on this specific cloud, right? Move users on there. So that's what we're trying to realize, help customers do is bring the cloud PC technology, make it easy to do across clouds at any region in the world, right? One thing that the reason I mentioned that is in traditional legacy VDI, right? When you were trying to build it all in a data center, if you live near a data center, great performance, right? If you happen to be that guy from across country or in another country coming all the way back to your data center, you had probably less than
Mm.
optimal performance. So one of the things that Workspot does is actually we don't care which region or which cloud you actually deploy with. In fact, we have one customer is doing up to 15 regions in the world because they're trying to put 40,000 users from 43 countries. And
Wow.
they had right. So they used to have everyone come to one giant data center. Everybody around the world complained. They said, okay, let's flip the problem over and said, okay, how do we do it so it's more, in country experience,
Oh,
right?
brilliant.
So
Yeah.
so that's what we've done, and that's the difference between us and a data center or legacy VDI, which is built into a data center. We're saying, hey, you know what? Which cloud do you want? Which region do you want? You want to mix and match? Sure. And that's why we're different. When we say SaaS, we really mean that is you can spin up and 1, 2, 15, 25 regions in just a few minutes with us.
That's so exciting. It's great to see the reality of the cloud hitting customers. It's not
Mhm.
just arbitrary. Um, you must be proud as chief product officer that Workspot earned a 76 net promoter score, which is for us marketing and design geeks, it's pretty impressive. So how did you do that, first of all? And what does that mean for your customers, I guess, more importantly, than
Y-
yourself?
Yeah, let me flip that back. Let me reverse that. So our customers gave us that rating, and I think it came down to this: is that what we do is simplifies that journey in cloud. So
Mm.
anybody who try to go to cloud or try to run VDI or try to do a lot of times they've got they've gone through the process. It's complex. A lot of it was residing on their shoulders because you were dealing with installed software. I think what we've done is very dramatically different is because we're SaaS based, right? And maybe I can define this a little bit. The way I look at SaaS versus say more of a do it yourself is this is 15 years ago we all used to run our own on premise email system, right? You installed it, you ran a cluster, you're worried about reliability, security patching,
Yeah,
etc.
the emails. No one says the emails down. Well, some people do, I guess, but
Well, it does, but it was IT job. Remember when
yeah,
dating myself again when we also used to carry pagers? It's like, oh my god, we're getting
yeah.
beeped.
I mean,
Emails down.
where's Mitch,
Yeah,
the email service guy?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But now, if you look at today, right? Everybody, very few organizations did that. I haven't run into a recent organization, but everyone gets it from one of the major cloud providers, right? And the experience is generally better because you're not worried about all those things, and all you're worried about is, hey, do I have my policies set right, and we're adding Mitch and Bob and Dan to the system, and but Barbara's getting kicked off, right? It's just simplified. And that's what we've done, right? Is we've taken what was used to be very complex, we flipped it over and just said, okay, how do we make it so it literally is as easy as what a SaaS-based email system can be. And I think that's helped customers realize their strategy faster and go live faster. And that's why they've given those scores. This is something we do every day. We are very focused on it, right? How do we make a cloud PC, get it up and running, secure in anywhere you want in the world as quick as possible, and then we continue. So going back to how we started in the beginning about the flywheel, after we get you live, we don't leave you alone, right? So some people, they're very focused on getting to day one. Day one means, my definition to be clear, is we got you up and running. Bye, right? Good luck, right? In the case of Workspot, we're there with you day 2, day 1,000. In some cases, we've got people with us already 5.5 years, right? Basically, just constantly making sure that the system's up, but also over time, everybody's business evolves. Like, how do you expand? Do you have different requirements? So because we're constantly there, and that flywheel, right? That operations, support, customer says, product engineering, release, that keeps turning for customers. They get the benefit of not just what happens for them, but what happens for other customers. So a customer might say, hey, look, I don't like the way things delete over here, right? If we make an improvement there, this customer gets it, like, oh, that's kind of neat. I got a freebie upgrade, right? And that's why I believe that we got the 76. Now, it's a great, for me, what it means is we're doing the right things for our customers. My team is basically working very closely, so they're getting that constant support. There's constant functionality. There's constant problems being absolved, fixed, right, resolved, because over time everything changes, right? I bought a company. Oh my gosh, how do I onboard these people? They're bigger than us. We just actually had that, where a small company bought a bigger company, and then they had to absorb them, right? So imagine how they used to do it in the old days, right, where they left their own devices, where how did you get the AD force, and how do you get this? How many weeks? We had another public company that actually triggered one of our system because they're public. All of our system went berserk because all of a sudden we saw a whole bunch of logins from Israel. So our system went like, oh my God, are we, what's going on? Is there an attack? We pick up the phone, call them, and they're like, oh, no, 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 no. We couldn't tell you we bought this company, but we bought this
Ah,
company, and we basically, all our systems are managed. It's basically
right.
a highly integrated system. And so after all the alarms are silenced, we turned it off. I said, "Hey, what was that onboarding like?" And they said, oh my God, let me bring up my Power BI dashboard. And they're like, 48 minutes. I'm like,
Oh, wow.
48 minutes for what? He goes, oh, we onboarded the entire company 48 minutes. I'm like, is that good or bad? Because for me, everything is about context, right?
Right,
Like,
right.
okay, what would it have been
Sounds
before
good to me.
Workspot?
Right, right.
They said 6 to 8 weeks, and they had to send people on site.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
that was a huge difference, because we made it super automated, super easy for a lot of our customers. Have basically had a very, very good experience with us. Hence, the
Great
76.
story.
Yes.
That's fantastic, and it's so interesting what you're doing, and your enthusiasm is infectious. And so, when you're not working from home or working from the office, like, as you are now, well, are you traveling at all? Are you getting back out in the real business world, as it were?
I don't, I don't know how to answer that. I will say it like this: I used to travel a lot,
I'm sure.
and then I think just a few weeks ago, I flew for the first time in 27 months, and
Wow.
I wondered, like, I flew to Arizona and then the plane shut down, and
Oh, jeez.
we started basically feeling like canned sardines inside the airplane because
Oh,
there was no
oh my
air.
gosh.
I'm like, do I really want to fly? I actually kind of like this whole remote work,
Yeah, let's get back
telepresence,
to that.
web conferencing thing, because I'm like, that was just not a great experience.
And it's not getting any better. But luckily, the cloud is here for us all. It's going to be our savior, so that's good news. But thanks so
Hopefully.
much for sharing all the insights and opportunities around Workspot, and look forward to chatting again soon.
Thanks, Evan. Appreciate
Thanks
it.
so much.
Love being here.